Hey, welcome to your next best step with Brek, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and we take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to your Next Best Step podcast, the Leaders Locker Room, where leaders go to slow down, get real, and become rooted so we can lead others better. Welcome. Look where I'm at. I'm back. It's been a long, cold, dreary winter here in the below, but we're back in the locker room, and I'm so happy about it. And we'll be in here for the remainder of spring and summer and fall. So I'm excited. And as you could tell, I got my Sabres, rocking my Sabres hat today because Sabres, baby, we are going all the way, all the way. It's exciting to be in the below these days. And so, welcome to every one of you who are listening in, watching, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today's conversation, I think, is just me, just soloing it here. I've been on in multiple coaching sessions, calls, and getting a lot of feedback in multiple contexts, whether it's a large, very large organization or more of a mom and pops, or doesn't really matter. What I'm seeing in real time, we're going to talk about today, and I think it might actually connect with each one of you as a leader. And I think today's conversation kind of sits right in the middle of what leadership really is. Leadership is strategy, right? It's a responsibility. We often say it's a stewardship. It's temporary. We're going to be held accountable. Leadership is influence, right? But leadership is not titles. Um, I mean, that is the lowest level of leadership that we can find. John Maxwell, the five levels of leadership. One, positional. You got to follow me because you have to. I got my name on the title. I'm the manager. I'm the shift manager. I'm whatever. I'm the CEO. You got to follow me no matter what if you want me to sign your check. That's not the kind of leadership we're talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about this thing called emotional presence. I wish I would have had this podcast years ago when I first started in coaching. I was a young kid, barely older than the kids I was coaching. I wish somebody would have set me down and said, "Yo, BC, we need to talk about something." And it's your emotional presence. You are so emotional and you get triggered. Like, I would have loved that. I would have loved it in my 30s. I would have loved it in my 40s. I would have loved it at any point. And somewhere along the line, I started to tap into this idea of emotional presence, emotional IQ, right? And we're going to talk about that today. You know, we've all been in that room. We've been in the boardroom. We've been in the office. We've been somewhere, and a conversation is happening. Something happens. Things get triggered. All of a sudden, a response that maybe we're not proud of, a response that of finally like, are you kidding me? This is happening again. And all of a sudden, everybody in the room, the culture shifted, the energy shifted, heads went down, eyeballs went sideways. I know you've been there. I've been there. I've been there, and I've created those experiences, unfortunately. So today, we're going to talk about this idea of emotional presence because I think this is so true. I'm going to reference some of my notes here today as we're talking. Because culture is not created only through mission statements. Mission statements on the wall, they're great, they're needed. Values posted on the wall, they're great, they're needed. But culture isn't just created in those places. Culture really is created in moments, specifically in the moments between trigger and trust. Did you hear that? The moment between trigger and trust. That's what we're going to talk about today. And honestly, I think this is where many of us leaders struggle, not because uh, lack of intelligence, not because leaders don't care, not because they lack vision, but because nobody taught them what to do in the moment of being triggered. Most leadership damage happens at the speed of a reaction. Back in 1995, a long time ago, in 95, Daniel Goleman introduced the world to this idea of emotional intelligence through his book, Emotional Intelligence, Why It Can Matter More Than IQ. And people everywhere said, "Man, this makes so much sense." It was the hot topic. And then the real question came in, well, how do we actually practice this EQ? That question then led to them creating what they called the 6 second model, developed in 97 by educators and researchers. And the 6 second framework was designed to make emotional intelligence practical, not theoretical, not just personal, like a personality profile, not kind of leadership jargon, but actually, let's make this thing really practical, a moment by moment leadership practice. And honestly, I think it may be one of the most important skills leaders can develop right now. I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it at the highest level in boardrooms. I'm seeing it at the lowest level around staff meetings. And the reason being is every conversation, every emotional response, every stressful moment is either building trust or slowly eroding it. You hear me talk about EDOT all the time. Everything depends on trust, and it's just really true. But here's the real problem. I think most leaders are trained really well operationally, how to produce, how to perform, but I don't think we spend very much time on how to emotionally lead well. We teach leaders strategy, execution, systems, productivity, communication tactics, but very few leaders are taught how to regulate frustration. Let me say that again, how to regulate frustration, how to recognize insecurity, how to stay curious under pressure. I'm talking about us, right? I'm talking about myself, not others, right? How to pause before reacting, how to lead themselves emotionally. And because of that, many leaders leak emotionally onto the people all around them. Stress leaks, pressure leaks, fear leaks, control leaks, anxiety leaks. I was on a trip last week and I had my water bottle down and I was on the seat because I had other stuff in the cup holder and I put it down and about an hour later I grabbed it and when I grabbed it I realized, oh my gosh, it had leaked. It had gotten all over my book, a towel, everything. It leaked. I was unaware. Many leaders, we are unaware of the emotional leakage that gets in on everybody, and everybody is impacted by it. Eventually, culture absorbs whatever leadership repeatedly releases. That's why emotional energy matters, not because it's trendy, because leadership is emotional. People experience your leadership, my leadership emotionally before they experience it strategically. And that's huge. You want me to say that again? Let me say it again. People experience our leadership emotionally before they experience it strategically. Every room that we walk into, we bring emotional presence in with us. And if we are not careful, our triggers begin shaping culture more than our values do. So today, I want to talk through 4 simple practices that help leaders navigate the moment between trigger and trust. You ready? I hope you got some notes. Maybe you can listen to this again. If you're watching it, come back to this. This is great. Number one, pause yourself. The first practice is this. In the moment that you're triggered, in the moment somebody walks in and once again they did not deliver like they said. Once again, your boss, your leader, whoever it is, they come in and they ask for something that you thought you had clarity on. And they are bringing it back around and they're saying, I need that. And you're so frustrated. And all of a sudden you're like, what? How does this happen over and over? I don't know what scenario it is, but when you get triggered, and it's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. When we get triggered, we have a moment, a second to pause ourselves. Before you react, pause long enough to notice, take a breath, slow the moment down, interrupt the autopilot response. Oh, it's you again. Oh, it's this always seems to happen to me again. Whatever that is, emotionally intelligent leadership begins with awareness, not reaction. So we pause ourselves. Most people, and this is something that I've had to really work on, and I'm not batting a thousand, but I am better than I used to be. Most people move directly from trigger to reaction. But grounded leaders learn how to create some space. And honestly, that space may be the one of the most important spaces that we can find in leadership. The pause between trigger and reaction is often the space where trust is either built or broken in a moment. This connects deeply with something that I love Brene Brown. You know, you hear me talk about it all the time. She talks about this pause, name it, choose, noticing before reacting. And honestly, this is hard under pressure. That's why we're talking about it now when the pressure's off. You cannot decide this when the pressure's on. You have to pre-decide this. You have to think about this, think about like envision this. When this happens, this is how I'm going to start to respond. When you feel disrespected, when you feel misunderstood, when expectations are high, when emotions rise in the room, but we never pause. We never lead intentionally. We simply react instinctively. And reactive leadership rarely builds healthy culture. So, number one, we got to pause yourself. Number two, know yourself. Know yourself before you wreck yourself. The second practice is this: know yourself. What am I feeling right now? So we pause, take a breath, slow down, put our both feet on the ground, sit back, lower the shoulders. Okay, we pause it and then we try to know what is going on right now. Simple question, hard to practice because most leaders skip awareness and move right to justification. As soon as the trigger, we put the armor on. We start to justify, we start to dismiss it, to justify it, to explain it, right? No, what they did, what happened, am I right? That's kind of our normal kind of flow. We're trying to like, oh, I gotta make sure that I win this, and we go automatic into win-lose competition in this. No, no, no. Emotionally intelligent leadership starts internally. What's happening inside of me right now? Am I frustrated? We pause. All right. Am I frustrated? Am I embarrassed? Am I exhausted? Is this touching some anxious spots in me? Is this insecurity I'm feeling? Am I feeling unseen, unheard, undervalidated? Am I trying to regain control because maybe positionally I should not be confronted like this? Or maybe because of my position, somebody is like disrespecting me. What's going on? I have to name. I got to know what's going on inside of me because unnamed emotions drive behavior. And honestly, self-awareness is a leadership responsibility. It's on us. Leadership is a responsibility in the self-awareness that we need to have because I just truly believe this. Everyone deserves to be led well. starting with ourselves. So before we can lead others well, we have to lead ourselves well. So this is what this is doing. We're pausing. We're getting to know like what's going on. What is this? Where is this coming from? One of the greatest gifts a leader can develop is the ability to notice themselves before everyone else has to experience them. This is why I ask leaders all the time, hey, let me ask you something. Do you know what it's like on the other side of you? Do you know what it sounds like, feels like? I I I've noticed it and everybody else knows it. Have you ever noticed it? Do you even care? Right? Leadership is not just what you intend, leadership is what people experience. You see, our intention, people don't know my intention. All they can see is my behavior, right? And so we have to remember like we can't like it's so we often we like, hey, I want to judge me for my intention and I want to judge you on your behavior. That's not how it works, right? And so if we are unaware of ourselves, people eventually feel the impact of what we refuse to acknowledge. Mm. Hey, honestly, this is the kind of work I spend a lot of time helping leaders and organizations navigate because most organizational problems are not just operational problems, they're leadership, trust, communication, and culture problems. And what I've learned over and over again is this: healthy culture almost always starts with a healthier leader. That's why when I work with organizations, we usually begin with the top leader first, not because there's a problem or not because they're the problem, but because leadership sets tone. Leadership shapes safety, leadership shapes trust, leadership shapes culture. And one grounded leader can completely change the emotional climate of a team. That's the work I get to do through like executive coaching, team development, leadership workshops, organizational culture workshops, all of those kind of things. So if you're listening to this or you're watching this today and you're thinking, man, our team needs this kind of conversation, I would love to connect with you. You can learn more at bcleadership.co.com. That's bcleadershipco.com. Now let's get back at it. Number three, choose yourself. The third practice is this: choose yourself. This is where leadership actually happens. There's a space between stimulus and response. Grounded leaders learn to live in that space. Oh my gosh, it's so good when it happens. The question becomes, what do I want to do right now? And what would a grounded leader do instead? That question changes everything. What do I want to do right now based upon this trigger? But we've already thought about the kind of leader we want to be when the pressure hits. And so now we have a different question. What would a grounded leader do instead? Because your first reaction is often protective. You want to defend, prove, shut down, interrupt, control, escalate, withdraw, win, baby. But trust is rarely built through self protection. Trust is built through intentionality. This is why I talk so much about trust over suspicion, curiosity over certainty, empathy over self protection. Emotionally intelligent leaders do not pretend emotions aren't real. They simply refuse to let emotions become the driver. And honestly, this is leadership maturity 101. Choosing values over impulses, choosing curiosity over certainty, choosing groundedness over reactivity. Because the moment, get this, because the moment between trigger and trust is the space where culture is created. Did you hear that? Because the moment between trigger and trust, that split second, is the space where culture is created. The good kind or the toxic kind. Here's the fourth thing: give yourself. The fourth practice is this: give yourself. What does trust require of me in this moment? This is where emotional intelligence becomes relational leadership because every interaction leaves residue. People remember, you remember. how you handled pressure, how safe they felt around you, how you corrected mistakes, whether you escalated or listened, whether your presence created fear or trust. Leaders are emotional thermostats. You set the emotional climate. And over time, culture becomes the accumulation of emotional moments, not giant moments, small, repeated moments. Tone, patience, curiosity, ownership, repair, listening, humility. That's why I say all the time everything depends on trust. And trust is built slowly through repeated, emotionally healthy leadership moments. So, here's a practical application. Your next best step, what you should do this week before your next difficult conversation. All right. Number one, pause yourself, slow the moment down. Two, know yourself. What am I feeling right now? Number three, choose yourself. What would my reactive self do? What would my grounded self do instead? Number four, give yourself. What does trust require of me in this moment? That's emotional intelligence. That's not theory. That's a moment by moment leadership practice. Hey, in closing, leadership is rarely revealed in calm moments. When things are going well, you've reached your goals, everybody's doing good. The boss came in and gave you an atta girl or an atta boy. That's not where leadership usually is revealed. Leadership is revealed when pressure hits, when frustration rises, when emotions get loud, when expectations increase, when things don't go your way. And maybe your next best step is not becoming smarter. Maybe it's becoming a little more aware, self aware, because the moment between trigger and trust is the space where culture is created. So here's your practical next step this week before your next difficult conversation. It's coming. It's coming. Hey, pause yourself, know yourself, choose yourself, right? Give yourself. Ask, what does trust require of me in this moment? And hey, if you're realizing this is not a personal issue, but maybe an organizational issue, this is the kind of work I help leaders and teams navigate every week. Every week, that's what I'm working on through executive coaching, leadership, all that kind of stuff. And so, hey, once again, if I can help, man, DM me on Instagram, Facebook, get a hold of me at my website, bcleadershipco.com. Would love to connect. And as always, keep taking your next best step, and we'll see you next week. Go Sabres.